Welcome on back to Easy Fish Tanks. In today's video, we're going to be covering the essential tips for successfully breeding cichlids. Breeding cichlids can be a rewarding and an exciting venture into the world of aquarium keeping and fish breeding. There are a ton of different varieties and species of cichlids, so this is going to be a general list on what you need to know to get started on the right foot if you're interested in breeding cichlids. So here are some tips to help you successfully breed cichlids. You're going to want to research your cichlid species. Different cichlid species have unique breeding behaviors, requirements, and compatibility levels. So you're going to want to research the specific species you have to understand their preferences and behaviors. So for example, convict cichlids, they'll breed no matter what. Those are like getting guppies. Convict cichlids are the guppies of cichlid breeding. If you put convict cichlids in a tank with a male and a female, they will breed. But other species are going to require you to do a little more diligence and to match certain conditions. Some cichlids are mouth brooders, like your African cichlids, so they will keep their fry and their eggs in their mouth during the breeding process, while other fish will lay eggs, like the convict cichlid. For instance, I have a Cuban and a jaguar cichlid that paired off, and they have successfully laid eggs and fertilized eggs and I've raised the fry. But those are gonna have two different needs. So you're gonna wanna research the specific species that you're going for. Once your research is done, you're gonna wanna create the right environment. This comes in a few steps. You're gonna wanna make sure you have the right water parameters. So you need to maintain stable water conditions, including the appropriate temperature for the species of cichlid you're breeding. And if you wanna get really technical with it, you can try to match the pH level and the hardness. I found that this step is actually unnecessary nowadays, because most of the cichlids you're acquiring are not going to be wild caught and they're already be acclimated to the pH level and the hardness of your local water supply. That being if you got your fish from your local fish store. For tank setup, you're going to want to provide a well-designed aquarium with the appropriate substrate, caves, and hiding spots to mimic their natural habitat. So some fish like to dig when they're breeding. Actually, most cichlids prefer to dig out a little hole in the substrate. So when I'm trying to breed any of my cichlids, I like to use a sand substrate or a really fine gravel substrate so that they can dig out their little nooks and crannies in the tank so they feel safe to breed. I also like to use, for my egg laying cichlids, a flat rock in the tank. They really prefer to lay their eggs on a flat rock, and then they can dig out the sand around it and make a little safe area for them. So you're gonna wanna consider including plants and rocks to create territorial boundaries and breeding sites. If you have a sand substrate and you have plants in your tank and you have flat rocks, that's gonna help them create a territorial boundary where they feel safe and they'll start breeding there. If at all possible, you wanna try to select at the store a male and a female cichlid, although it can be really hard to tell if you're getting them as juveniles, whether they're male or female. So another approach here, depending on your tank size, is to buy a group of cichlids and hope you get a male or female cichlid, and then see once they mature if they're male or female, and you can try to pair them up with each other. Just like anything else, you want to make sure prior to breeding that you're feeding them appropriately. You want to feed your cichlids a nutritious and varied diet to ensure that they have optimal health and conditions for breeding. So this is going to incorporate high quality pellets and flakes. And I also recommend providing live or frozen foods like bloodworms or brine shrimp to give them that extra nutrition. Once these requirements are met, you can try to attempt to trigger breeding conditions artificially. There are two ways that are known to be pretty successful at doing this. Water changes. Now, I'm not talking about draining half your tank out and going crazy with it, but you do about a 25% water change, and you can simulate natural conditions by performing this 25% water change and adding slightly cooler water. This and a lot of fish species will trigger breeding instincts. You can alter the lighting duration or intensity to mimic seasonal changes, and this can help encourage breeding behavior as well. I found that for me, the best tip is the water changes by adding slightly cooler water. That definitely works with my cichlids and my guppies. You add that cooler water, and for whatever reason, it triggers breeding instincts. Now, while you're going through all this hard work, you might as well enjoy your fish by watching them and checking them out. And while you're watching them, you want to look for signs of courtship behavior. This can include displaying vibrant colors, like you guys saw with the convict cichlid. The female convict cichlid just gets these super vibrant orange colors on her belly, orange-red colors on her belly, and blue on her tail, on her dorsal fins. So they'll get vibrant colors. They'll do what looks like dancing, where they're swimming around the fish of the opposite sex. With 90% of all cichlids, they're gonna start digging. That's again why I recommend like a sand or fine gravel substrate. If you're seeing the vibrant colors, the dancing, and the digging, you know they're getting ready to breed. Now, once you see these breeding behaviors and you're feeling pretty confident they're gonna start breeding, if you haven't done so already, you wanna make sure that you provide a breeding site for them. So again, this is gonna depend on the species, but I found that most suitable breeding sites are flat rocks, caves, or pits in the substrate. which are normally dug by the fish themselves. And this is where the female can lay their eggs and the male can come and fertilize them. Now, if you aren't able to give the fish enough room to hide, or you weren't able to provide enough structure for the fish to hide, you might need to separate aggressive individuals. So you can consider using dividers in the tank if the female is getting harassed too much. So I've had to move my female jaguar out from my Cuban in a 60-gallon tank and put her into my 125 while they were courting. The Cuban cichlid was getting way too aggressive, pretty much exhausting her. Once the eggs were fertilized, I pulled the female out and put her in a different tank. Now, I didn't get as many successful eggs that way because nobody was sitting there fanning the eggs. But once she was separated, she was able to recover and I was able to breed them again without issue. Now, I found most cichlids are really good parents. They're gonna try to protect their eggs. So once the female lays the eggs, you can observe she'll stay very close to the eggs. She'll tend to fan the eggs with her fins and she'll just hang out protecting the eggs and the fry once they spawn. That's the one really cool thing I like about cichlids, is they're fantastic parents. Now, about the first week after the fry either are released from a mom's mouth or a week after the eggs have hatched, they have enough nutrition on like a sack that they carry with them after they're born, where you don't need to worry about that first or second day immediately sprinkling food in there. But I'd say 4 days to a week after they hatch, you're gonna wanna provide appropriate food for the fry. For example, you wanna give powdered or liquid fry food to support their growth and development. I, in the past too, have just taken my regular food that I feed them, my regular flakes, and I'll grind them up into a fine powder and put that in the tank, and that seems to work well. But if you can give them specific food for fry, all the better. You want to make sure that you're still testing your water to maintain water quality to ensure a healthy environment for both the breeding cichlids and their offspring. And again, we come back to probably the most important thing in the hobby is patience and observation. Breeding's not always going to happen right away. Breeding can take some time and may require you to have multiple attempts at it. So don't be discouraged if your fish don't breed right away, or the eggs aren't successfully fertilized right away, or the fry don't survive right away. Keep track of what went right and what went wrong during that process and make adjustments next time they display breeding behavior. The big takeaway from this is to remember that successful cichlid breeding requires careful planning, a proper setup, and attention to the unique needs of the cichlid species that you chose to bred. So good luck with your breeding endeavors. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. As I said, there's a lot of different types of cichlid species. So if you guys would like me to cover a little bit more in detail of a specific species of cichlid and their exact requirements and needs, I'd be more than happy to make a video about a specific cichlid species to give you more of a in-depth view and my recommendations for breeding that specific species. Well, thank you everybody for watching and good luck with your breeding endeavors. We'll see you on the next video.